Every single year, without fail, my family forgot my birthday. Not just a casual, oh, we'll celebrate next weekend, kind of forgetting. I mean complete, total, absolute erasure of the day I was born. While my sister, my precious, perfect golden child sister, got birthday parties that looked like they belonged in magazines. Lavish doesn't even begin to cover it. We're talking rented venues, professional photographers, catered dinners, ice sculptures shaped like her initials, custom cakes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. And me? I got silence. I got nothing. I got the kind of absence that carves holes in your chest that never quite heal, the kind that makes you wonder if you're even real, if you even matter, if your existence registers at all in the minds of the people who are supposed to love you most in this world. But here's what they didn't know. Here's what they couldn't possibly have anticipated in their comfortable bubble of favoritism and selective memory. I wasn't just sitting there taking it anymore. I wasn't the desperate little girl begging for scraps of attention from a table I was never invited to sit at. No, I'd built something they never saw coming because they never bothered to look. And when I finally made my move, when I finally showed them exactly what they'd been ignoring all these years, it came in the form of a single photograph and one devastating caption that burned their world down to ashes. The picture was simple. Me, standing in front of a mansion in Aspen, Colorado. Not just any mansion, but the one my parents had talked about buying for years. The one they dragged us to see every winter vacation. The one my mother had pinned on her vision board. The one my father had called his retirement dream. And the caption? 8 words that detonated like a nuclear bomb in our family group chat. Have fun with your real daughter. This one's done. That one post changed absolutely everything. Within minutes, my phone started vibrating so hard it nearly fell off the table. Calls from my mother, my father, my sister, aunts, uncles, family friends I hadn't heard from in years. Text messages rolling in like a tsunami. Voicemails filled with confusion, anger, desperation, sudden declarations of love that rang hollow as tin. The family that couldn't remember the day I was born suddenly remembered my phone number real quick when I bought the house they wanted. Funny how that works, isn't it? Funny how visibility becomes crystal clear when you're standing in front of something they desire. I want you to do something for me right now. Drop a comment with your city and the time where you are if you've ever felt invisible in your own family. If you've ever sat at a birthday dinner for a sibling and realized nobody even knows when yours is. If you've ever felt like a ghost in your own home, present but unseen, speaking but unheard, existing in a space between mattering and complete erasure. Tell me I'm not alone in this. Tell me you understand this specific kind of pain that comes from being unwanted by the people whose job it was to want you most. Let me take you back to where this all started, because you need to understand the full scope of what they did to me. Year after year, birthday after birthday, moment after moment of casual cruelty disguised as ordinary family life. We grew up in Westchester County, one of those wealthy New York suburbs where everyone drives the right cars and joins the right clubs and sends their kids to the right schools. My father ran a successful investment firm. My mother did charity galas and sat on boards and made sure everyone knew we were the kind of family that mattered in those circles. From the outside, we looked perfect. The beautiful house with the manicured lawn, the family photos in expensive frames, the holiday cards with everyone dressed in coordinated outfits and fake smiles. But inside that house, there was me and there was my sister Claire. And we existed in 2 completely different realities. Claire was 18 months younger than me, and from the moment she was born, she became the sun around which our entire family orbited. I became space debris, floating forgotten in the cold darkness where no light reached. My 10th birthday. Double digits, right? That's supposed to be a milestone. I remember waking up so excited that morning, thinking surely this year would be different. Surely they'd remember. I came downstairs wearing my favorite dress, the purple one with the flowers that I'd laid out the night before, and found my mother making pancakes. Not for me, for Claire, who had a writing competition that day. A writing competition that just happened to fall on my birthday, and that obviously took priority over any celebration for me. I sat at the breakfast counter and waited. Waited for someone to say happy birthday. Waited for my father to come down and ruffle my hair and tell me I was growing up. Waited for Claire to give me the card she'd made. Waited for any acknowledgement at all. Nothing came. We ate breakfast and talked about Claire's competition. We drove to the stables, and I sat in the stands and watched Claire ride her horse in circles, while parents I didn't know congratulated my parents on her form. We went to dinner afterward at Claire's favorite restaurant because she'd won a ribbon, 3rd place in her age group, and everyone toasted her success. I sat there in my birthday dress that nobody noticed, eating pasta I didn't want, swallowing tears and rage in equal measure. When we got home, I went to my room and cried into my pillow so hard I thought I might turn inside out. Nobody came to check on me. Nobody knocked on my door. Nobody even noticed I was upset. The next morning, I thought maybe they'd surprise me. Maybe they'd been planning a party all along and yesterday was just bad timing. But morning came and went, and nothing. Days passed, weeks. Not a single person in my family ever acknowledged that my birthday had happened. It was like the day didn't exist. Like I didn't exist. My 16th birthday. You know what 16th birthdays are supposed to be, right? Sweet 16. The big party. The milestone everyone remembers forever. Claire had gotten a surprise party at a hotel ballroom 6 months earlier when she turned 16. 200 guests, a DJ, a candy bar, a photo booth, a dress that cost $3,000. My mother had planned it for months. I'd helped, actually, stuffing envelopes and tying ribbons on party favors, my hands literally building the celebration of a sister who got everything while I got nothing. When my 16th birthday came around, I didn't expect a party. I'd learned by then not to expect anything, but I thought maybe they'd at least take me to dinner. Maybe acknowledge the day in some small way. Instead, my mother was in the middle of planning a charity auction and spent the entire day at the event space. My father was traveling for business, and Claire had forgotten I existed, as usual, too busy with her friends and her perfect life to spare a thought for her sister. I spent my 16th birthday alone in my room, doing homework and watching the sun set through my window, feeling the specific kind of loneliness that comes from being forgotten by people who are supposed to love you. That night, I made a decision. I would never give them the satisfaction of seeing me beg for their attention again. I would never ask why. I would never cry in front of them. I would build a life so successful, so complete, so absolutely beyond their reach, that one day they'd realize what they'd lost, and it would be too late. 21st birthday. Legal drinking age. Another milestone. The birthday when you're supposed to feel like a real adult. Claire had gotten a trip to Vegas for her 21st, all expenses paid, 10 of her closest friends, bottle service at the best clubs, my parents footing the bill without blinking. My 21st birthday fell on a Tuesday. I was in college by then, had worked my way through on scholarships and student loans, because my parents paid for Claire's education but told me I needed to learn responsibility. I woke up in my tiny dorm room and checked my phone, knowing there wouldn't be messages but checking anyway because hope dies hard. Nothing. Not from my mother, not from my father, not from Claire. I went to my classes and came back and studied for midterms and went to bed, and another birthday dissolved into nothing. But that night, lying in my narrow dorm bed, I pulled out the notebook I'd been keeping since I was 16. In it, I'd been writing down every goal, every plan, every step I needed to take to build the kind of financial independence that would make me untouchable. I'd been studying investment strategies, real estate markets, business models. I'd been saving every penny I made from my campus jobs. I'd been building, quietly, invisibly, the same way I'd existed my entire life. 25th birthday. I was out of college by then, working 100-hour weeks at a startup tech company, living in an apartment the size of a closet, eating ramen and sleeping 4 hours a night. But I had equity in the company, and I believed in what we were building. My birthday that year fell on the same day as Claire's engagement party. Yes, you heard that right. My parents threw Claire an engagement party on my birthday. Not near it, not the day before or after. On the actual day, I got an invitation like everyone else. A beautiful cream cardstock with embossed lettering that said nothing about celebrating me, only about celebrating Claire's upcoming marriage to a hedge fund manager my mother already loved more than she'd ever loved me. I didn't go. I told them I had to work, which was true, but I also would have said it even if it wasn't. I spent that birthday at my desk, writing code and answering emails and building something that would matter, building value in myself, since nobody else saw any. The company went public when I was 27. My equity became worth more money than I'd ever imagined having. Not billionaire money, but enough to be free. Enough to never need anything from my family again. Enough to start making choices based purely on what I wanted, not what I could afford. I bought a condo in the city, something small but mine, with a view of the water and light that poured through the windows like honey. I started investing in real estate, buying properties in markets I'd researched obsessively. I built a portfolio that grew while I slept. And through all of this, through every milestone and success and moment of professional triumph, my family noticed nothing. My mother would call occasionally, always to talk about Claire's wedding planning, then Claire's pregnancy, then Claire's baby, then Claire's second baby. My father would send brief emails asking if I was still at that computer thing. Claire never called at all unless she needed something, which happened exactly twice, both times asking if I could babysit because her regular nanny was sick. I said no both times. I was done being convenient. The birthdays kept coming and going unmarked. 28, 29, 30. That 30th one stung more than I expected. 30 feels significant, like you're supposed to take stock of your life and figure out who you are and where you're going. I spent it alone in my condo, drinking wine that cost more than my mother spent on groceries in a month, looking out at the city lights, and feeling the hollow victory of financial success without family connection. But something shifted that night. Some internal recalibration happened while I sat there in my expensive solitude. I realized I'd spent 20 years of my life waiting for them to notice me, to value me, to love me the way they loved Claire. 20 years of hope deferred and disappointment compounded and pain swallowed. And I decided, right there with my glass of wine and my view and my hard-won independence, that I was done waiting, done hoping, done giving them any power over my emotional state whatsoever. By the time I turned 31, something had fundamentally changed in me. The anger was still there, burning hot and bright, but it wasn't eating me alive anymore. It was fuel. It was energy. It was motivation to build a life so complete, so full, so absolutely mine, that their neglect became irrelevant. I stopped checking my phone on my birthday morning, stopped hoping for messages that wouldn't come. Instead, I started celebrating myself, extravagantly, intentionally. I took myself to expensive restaurants and ordered everything I wanted, bought myself jewelry and clothes and art, planned trips to places I'd always wanted to see. Paris for a week, Tokyo for 10 days, Iceland to see the Northern Lights. I built a life that reflected my own values and desires, not the scraps of approval I'd been starving for. And it felt good. It felt like power, It felt like the opposite of invisible. Then came the Aspen opportunity. I was 32, another birthday come and gone without acknowledgement. When my real estate broker called about a property that had just come on the market, she knew I'd been looking for a mountain house, somewhere I could ski and hike and escape the city noise. She sent me the listing, and my heart stopped when I opened it. It was the house. The exact house my parents had obsessed over for years. The one they'd shown us on those childhood vacations. The one my mother had taken 1,000 pictures of. The one my father had called his someday dream. A massive timber and stone mansion perched on a mountainside, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the peaks, 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a home theater, wine cellar, heated pool, the whole absurd package. It had been owned by some tech executive who was liquidating assets in a divorce and wanted it gone fast. The price was high, but not unreachable. Not for me. Not anymore. I had the money. I had the credit. I had the life I'd built brick by brick while they weren't watching. And in that moment, looking at the listing photos of the house my parents had wanted for decades, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I flew out the next day, walked through the house with my broker, and fell in love with it for my own reasons, not just because of the symbolic value. It was beautiful, peaceful, the kind of place where you could hear yourself think, where the silence wasn't lonely but restorative. I imagined my mornings there, coffee on the deck watching the sunrise over the mountains, my evenings reading by the fireplace, my winters skiing fresh powder, my summers hiking wildflower trails. I made an offer. Full asking price cash, close in 2 weeks. The seller accepted immediately. Just like that, the house my parents had dreamed about for 30 years became mine, not theirs. Mine. Bought with money I'd earned. A life I'd built. Success they'd never acknowledged. The closing happened on a Thursday. I got the keys, drove up the winding driveway, unlocked the front door, and walked into my mountain mansion. My house. My achievement. My proof that I didn't need their validation or their love or their attention to become someone who mattered. I'd done it anyway, despite them, without them, in the face of their complete indifference. I spent the weekend moving some basics in, setting up one of the bedrooms, stocking the kitchen, making the space livable, and on Sunday afternoon, I stood on the deck with the mountains stretching out forever in front of me, and I took a photo. Just me, smiling genuinely for maybe the first time in years, with the house visible behind me in all its glory. I posted it to social media, not to our family group chat first, not with any warning, just straight to my public accounts where I knew mutual family friends would see it and word would spread. And I wrote that caption, the one I'd been composing in my head all weekend. Have fun with your real daughter. This one's done. Then I turned off my phone and went inside and made myself dinner in my gourmet kitchen and ate it at my dining table, overlooking my view, and I felt peace settle over me like snow. When I finally turned my phone back on the next morning, I had over 300 notifications. Missed calls, voicemails, text messages, DMs, emails, the digital equivalent of my family pounding on my door demanding to be let in. Now they saw me. Now they remembered I existed. Now, suddenly, I was visible. My mother's voicemails progressed through stages of grief. First, confusion. Angela, what is this post about? Call me back. Then anger. How dare you air family business online? Take that down immediately. Then bargaining. Sweetheart, I don't understand why you're upset. Let's talk about this. Then sadness. Please call your mother. I'm worried about you. All fake. All performance. All too late. My father's messages were terser, more demanding. Call me. This is unacceptable. You owe us an explanation. The entitlement dripping from every word, like I owed them anything after decades of nothing. Claire's messages were the most infuriating because they were the most oblivious. Oh my God, is that the Aspen house? That's so crazy. Why are you being dramatic though? LOL, call mom, she's freaking out. No comprehension, no awareness, no recognition that she'd been complicit in my erasure for our entire lives. I didn't respond to any of them. Not one message, not one call, nothing. I let them sit in their confusion and panic and sudden desperate need to contact me. I let them feel a fraction of what I'd felt every single birthday for 32 years. That absence of response. That silence that confirms you don't matter enough to acknowledge. 3 days later, they showed up. All three of them, my mother and father and Claire, driving up to my new house unannounced and uninvited. Because apparently, boundaries mean nothing when you're used to getting what you want. I watched from the upstairs window as their Range Rover pulled into my driveway. Watched them get out and look around at the property with expressions mixing awe and anger. They rang the doorbell. I didn't answer. They knocked. I didn't move. They called my phone from the front porch and I watched it ring in my hand and let it go to voicemail. My mother yelled through the door, "Angela, we know you're in there. Open up right now." Like I was a child being punished instead of a grown woman in her own house. Eventually, I went downstairs and opened the door, stood in the doorway blocking their entrance, and looked at them with all the coldness they'd shown me every birthday of my life. "What do you want?" I asked. My mother looked like I'd slapped her. "What do we want? Angela, what is going on? What was that post about? Why did you buy this house without telling us? Why would I tell you? You're not part of my life." "Not part of your life? We're your family." I laughed, and it came out sharp and bitter as poison. "My family? My family forgets I exist 365 days a year. You're not my family. You're people I happen to share DNA with who have made it crystal clear for my entire life that I'm an obligation at best and an inconvenience at worst." My father stepped forward, his face red with anger he had no right to feel. "That's ridiculous. We've always treated you girls equally. Equally. Dad, you paid for Claire to go to Princeton and told me I needed to learn financial responsibility. You threw her a sweet 16 that cost $50,000 and forgot my 16th birthday existed. You funded her Vegas trip and didn't even text me on my 21st. You threw her an engagement party on my 25th birthday, my actual birthday. And you're going to stand there and tell me you treated us equally?" Claire made a dismissive noise. "Oh my God, is this about birthdays? Are you seriously this upset about birthdays? Grow up, Angela." I looked at my sister, my younger sister, who'd gotten every ounce of love and attention our parents had to give, and felt something break free in my chest, not my heart. That had broken years ago. This was different. This was the chains of caring what she thought, snapping and falling away. "Get off my property," I said quietly. "Angela, please." My mother tried again. "Let's talk about this like adults. There's clearly been some misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. You forgot my birthday every single year. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a choice you made, over and over and over. And I'm making a choice now. Get off my property and don't come back." "You can't be serious," my father said. "We're not going to let you throw away this family over something so petty." "Petty? You think 32 years of neglect is petty? You think a childhood of being invisible is petty? The only petty thing here is that it took me this long to cut you out." I started closing the door. My mother put her hand out to stop it. "Wait, Angela, wait. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry if we made you feel forgotten. That was never our intention." If you made me feel forgotten?" I shook my head. "You don't even know what you did. You can't even acknowledge it fully. You're sorry if I feel bad, not sorry for what you actually did. That's not an apology. That's you trying to make this go away without actually taking responsibility." "What do you want from us?" Claire demanded, arms crossed, looking at me like I was the problem, like I was the one causing drama by finally standing up for myself. "I don't want anything from you. That's the point. I spent 32 years wanting you to see me, to remember me, to love me even half as much as you loved Claire. And now I don't want that anymore. I don't need your love or your attention or your approval. I have a life you knew nothing about because you never bothered to ask. I have success you never acknowledged because you were too busy celebrating Claire's mediocrity. I have this house, the one you dreamed about, the one you wanted, and it's mine, not yours, mine. And you can't have it. You can't have me. Not anymore. I closed the door in their faces and locked it. Stood there listening to them argue on the other side. My mother crying, my father demanding I be reasonable, Claire insisting I was being dramatic. I walked away and went upstairs and watched from the window as they eventually got back in their car and left, driving down the mountain and out of my life. They tried a few more times over the following weeks. More calls, more messages, my mother sending emails with subject lines like "please read" and "we need to talk." Claire sent a long text about how I was hurting Mom and being selfish and tearing the family apart over nothing. My father sent a formal letter to my condo, typed on his company letterhead, like this was a business matter, outlining all the ways they'd supported me over the years. A revisionist history that bore no resemblance to the reality I'd lived. I didn't respond to any of it. I blocked their numbers eventually, filtered their emails to spam, removed them from all social media, cut them out cleanly and completely, the way a surgeon removes diseased tissue. The mansion became my sanctuary. I spent more and more time there, working remotely from the home office I set up, with views of the aspens turning gold in fall and the peaks going white with first snow in winter. I furnished it slowly, carefully, with pieces I loved rather than rushing to fill the space. Each room became a reflection of me, my taste, my choices, my life. I started making friends in town, people who knew me as Angela the tech investor, not Angela the forgotten daughter. People who invited me to dinner parties and book clubs and ski trips because they enjoyed my company, not because they were obligated by blood. I dated someone for a while, a kind architect who made me laugh and never once forgot a birthday or anniversary. It didn't last forever, but it was good while it did, and it taught me what it felt like to be chosen, to be prioritized, to matter to someone. I celebrated my 33rd birthday in the mansion, threw myself a party with my new friends, catered food and good wine and music, and laughter echoing off the timber beams. Someone asked me if my family was coming, and I said no, I don't have family. Just these friends who'd become something better. And I meant it. The family I'd been born into had never been family in any way that mattered. These people who showed up and remembered and cared, they were more family to me than blood had ever been. My 34th birthday, I spent hiking alone in the mountains, 10 miles into the wilderness, with nothing but my backpack and the sound of my breath and the birds. I sat on a summit eating lunch and looking out over the endless peaks and felt happy, genuinely happy. Not the angry satisfaction of revenge, but the deep contentment of a life well lived on my own terms. That's when I realized the revenge had never really been the point. The house, the post, the dramatic cutoff, those were just the visible actions. The real revenge was this: living well, being happy, building a life so full and complete that their absence didn't leave a hole. They'd spent my entire childhood and young adulthood making me feel like I didn't matter, like I was unworthy of love or attention or basic acknowledgement. And I'd proven them wrong, not by forcing them to see me, but by seeing myself clearly and building a life that reflected my own value. I heard through mutual acquaintances that my parents eventually sold their house in Westchester and moved to Florida, downsizing for retirement apparently. My mother told people I'd had some kind of breakdown and they were giving me space to work through it, rewriting history so she wasn't the villain. Claire had a third baby, And from what I saw on social media before I blocked her entirely, my parents were very involved grandparents, posting pictures constantly, celebrating every milestone, still capable of showing up for the child they'd chosen, still incapable of acknowledging the one they hadn't. It doesn't hurt anymore, or at least not the way it used to. Sometimes I feel a ghost of the old pain, usually around the holidays when the world gets sentimental about family. But it's distant now, like an old scar that only aches in certain weather. Most of the time, I just feel free. Free from the weight of trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it. Free from the hope that kept me chained to their approval. Free to be fully myself without apologizing for taking up space. I'm 36 now. My birthday is next week, actually, and I'm planning another party at the mansion. Friends from town, colleagues from work, people I've met through various investments and projects. People who know when my birthday is because they listen when I talk, because they pay attention, because they care. The caterer is confirmed, the wine is ordered, the weather forecast looks perfect. And my family? They have no idea it's coming. They probably still don't know when my birthday is, even after all this. They're off in Florida or wherever, living their lives, probably thinking I'll come around eventually, that I'll forgive and forget and show up at some holiday dinner ready to pretend the past didn't happen. But here's what I need you to understand. What I need anyone watching this to understand. Waiting for other people to validate your worth is a trap that will destroy you from the inside. You can spend your whole life begging for crumbs from people who will never feed you. Or you can walk away and find a table where you're not just welcome but celebrated, where your presence matters, where the day you were born is treated like the gift it actually is. The real family isn't the one you're born into. It's the one you choose. The people who show up, who remember, who see you clearly and love what they see. Those are your people. Blood means nothing if it doesn't come with care and effort and basic human decency. I wasted 32 years trying to be enough for people who would never think I was enough. I'm not wasting another day. This mansion, this life, this peace I've built, it's not revenge, it's freedom. It's what happens when you finally stop seeking permission to exist and just start existing fully, loudly, unapologetically. They wanted me to disappear? I did. From their lives, from their narrative, from their convenient fiction of a happy family. I vanished completely and built something they can't touch, can't claim, can't diminish. And every morning I wake up in this house they'll never own, in this life they'll never access. And I am happy. Not because I hurt them, though I won't pretend that didn't feel satisfying in the moment, but because I finally belong to myself. The anger is still there sometimes, in quiet moments when I think about all those birthdays, all those years of being unseen. It probably always will be. That kind of pain doesn't fully disappear, but it doesn't control me anymore. It doesn't define me. It's just part of my story, the dark chapters that make the current ones bright by contrast. And the pain? The pain taught me something valuable. It taught me exactly what kind of parent I never want to be if I have children. It taught me how to recognize real love versus obligation. It taught me my own strength, because I survived being unwanted by the people who were supposed to want me most. And I came out the other side not just intact, but thriving. So this is me telling you, if you're in a family that makes you feel invisible, that forgets you exist, that treats you like you're less than, like you don't matter, like you're not worth basic acknowledgement and care, you are allowed to leave. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to build a family of choice that actually gives a damn about you. You are allowed to cut off people who drain you, even if they share your DNA, even if society says you owe them loyalty just because they're blood. You don't owe anyone access to you. You don't owe anyone forgiveness. You don't owe anyone a relationship that destroys your peace. What you owe is yourself the chance to be happy, to be seen, to be loved properly. And if your biological family can't give you that, find people who can. They're out there. I promise you they're out there. The mansion is quiet tonight, just me and the sound of the wind in the aspens outside. Tomorrow I'll drive into town and finalize the party details. Next week, I'll celebrate another year of life with people who actually care that I'm alive. And my family, my biological family, they'll be doing whatever they do, probably forgetting it's my birthday again, and for the first time in my life, I genuinely don't care. That's the real victory. Not the house, not the money, not the dramatic social media post. The real victory is indifference. They can't hurt me anymore because I've withdrawn all the power I gave them. I don't need them to validate me. I don't need them to see me. I don't need them at all. I see myself. I validate myself. I celebrate myself. And I've built a life full of people who do the same. That's more than enough. That's everything. So if you've ever cut ties with family for your peace of mind, share your story below. Tell me what finally made you walk away. Tell me how you built your life afterward. Tell me I'm not crazy for choosing my own well-being over the comfortable fiction of family harmony. Drop a comment with your city, your time, your story. Let's build a community of people who chose themselves and didn't look back. Like this if it resonated with you. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about reclaiming your power from people who took it for granted. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they're allowed to walk away, that they're allowed to choose peace over obligation, that they're allowed to want more than being tolerated by people who should love them. And most importantly, remember this. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building a life so good, so full, so completely yours, that the people who underestimated you become irrelevant. They don't get to be part of your story anymore, except as the antagonists you overcame. The villains you defeated not by fighting them, but by refusing to let them define your worth. I'm Angela. I'm 36 years old in a week. And I'm finally free. My family forgot my birthday for 32 years while my sister got everything. So I bought the mansion they always wanted and built a life they'll never touch. And I've never been happier. That's my story. That's my truth. That's my revenge that turned into freedom. Drop your stories below, and let's remind each other that we're not alone in this. That choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Thanks for listening to me pour all this anger and pain and eventual peace out into the world. It helps to say it out loud, to name what happened, to claim my own narrative instead of letting them write me out of existence. You matter, even if your family doesn't see it, especially if they don't see it. You matter, and you deserve people in your life who know that and show it. Don't settle for less. Don't wait for people to change who've shown you exactly who they are for years. Believe them the first time, the 10th time, the 100th time, and then walk away and build something better. The mountains are beautiful tonight. My house is warm and quiet and mine. My birthday is next week and it will be celebrated with joy by people who care. And my family? They're just strangers now who happen to know some old version of me that doesn't exist anymore. The girl who begged for their love died somewhere between forgotten birthday 30 and 31. The woman who replaced her doesn't beg for anything. She takes what she's earned and builds what she wants and surrounds herself with people who deserve access to her. Be that person. Choose yourself. Walk away from tables where you're not fed. Build your own table. And invite people who show up with full plates and open hearts. That's where family is. That's where home is. Not in the house you grew up in or the people who raised you, but in the spaces you create and the people you choose and the life you build from the ashes of what you thought you needed. This is the last time I'll tell this story, probably. It's done now. They're behind me. The anger has burned down to embers I can control. The pain has scarred over into strength. I'm looking forward now, not back. To next week's party. to next year's adventures, to all the birthdays ahead that will be celebrated loudly and joyfully by people who love me. That's what winning looks like. Not revenge, not destruction, just peace, just freedom. Just a life lived fully in the light after spending too many years invisible in the shadows. I hope you find your way to that same light. I hope you build your own mansion, literal or metaphorical. I hope you surround yourself with people who see you, and I hope you never, ever settle for being forgotten by people who should remember. You deserve so much more than that. We all do. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me be seen and heard in a way my family never managed. Drop those comments, like and subscribe, share your city and your story. Let's build something better together. A community of people who refuse to disappear just because someone else couldn't see them. We're here. We're visible. We matter. And no amount of neglect can change that truth.